Good morning. It is 7:04 a.m. on Monday, November 1st, 2021. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. And for some reason, I'm talking in oldies radio DJ voice. Hmm. Anyway, good morning. Back to work today, although, uh, as a precaution after traveling, I'm going to be working from home for a little bit. Hopefully, hopefully it is out of an abundance of caution and not a real concern. But I mean, the pandemic is not done. But in any case, had a pretty good day yesterday, in the sense that I got to go pick my little dog up from the kennel, and he's a very good boy, and I enjoyed being reunited with him. And then did some grocery shopping and watched some movies and played some video games. So first, my initial idea was to watch scary movies all day, and I kind of, didn't fully commit to that, but I did watch some, and including the first thing that I watched was The Lost Boys, which is a 1980s classic that I had never seen, and it was always one of those movies where I always felt like it does seem like a movie I would like. It does seem like a movie I should have seen already, but I just hadn't. Everybody has those gaps, right? Nobody has seen everything. But turns out it is a movie I would like because I did. I liked it. I will say that, like, it's a little bit soggy in the middle part where, some of the stuff where the older brother Michael is kind of starting to realize that something's going on. He's kind of starting to realize he's becoming a vampire. And the little brother is figuring that out too. And the mom is dating the guy. And it just, like that whole section, like, it's not that I don't like the story in that part. It's just that the movie feels like it meanders for a little while. It loses focus a little bit. But the things that are great about this movie, the things that people remember, not those parts. They remember, of course, just first of all, the setting and the time period and the clothes and the music and the look, right? And they remember the big action, spectacular roller coaster climax, right? And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there. Um, it's obvious watching it how much of an influence it was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Um, not just in kind of the obvious almost one for one of David, played by Kiefer Sutherland, and Spike from Buffy, but just in general, this sense of, you know, uh, people standing up against vampires that are depicted in a. I mean, vampires in this are pretty close to the vampires in Buffy, with the one significant difference probably being down to production detail rather than mythology, which is to say that in Buffy, of course, the vampires just turn to dust when they are staked, because, of course, although that represents a significant digital effect, that they special effect that they have to do the dusting, it's a little easier than the elaborate and variable deaths that the vampires suffer in The Lost Boys, which is pretty entertaining just in the sense that each time a vampire dies, you're never quite sure what's going to happen. And some of them are pretty dramatic. Which is, that's an interesting, depiction of the deaths in the vampire deaths in the one, and just there's classic lines. I liked it. I'll leave it there. I'll say that if The Lost Boys is for you like it was for me, one of those movies where you kind of always meant to see it, you feel like you might like it, go ahead and check it out. It's good. I then also watched the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is not the first time I've seen it, but it's been a while. Part of that was because, once again, like, I really enjoy the Unspooled podcast. It is the next horror movie they're planning to talk about, so it seemed like a reasonable one. It also just surfaced prominently for me when I was looking at stuff on HBO Max. And yeah, that one's good too. Oddly enough, I think there's some Buffy influence there too. And for it's interesting sometimes to think about these, the early slasher movies, the ones that sort of established the genre. Because Nancy so first of all, one thing that's, another interesting connection, it's Wes Craven connection. Um, Actually, is Wes Craven? Now I'm suddenly second guessing myself. Is Wes Craven related with Scream? Hang on. Wes Craven. Scream. Yeah, okay, definitely. So one of the things, I thought so, and I suddenly second guessed myself. But the point being that both Scream and A Nightmare on Elm Street sort of start with one girl sort of implying that she's going to be the main character, and then it's really her friend that becomes the main character later. That's a shared thing between them. But uh, there being a moment in the climax, towards the end of the climax with A Nightmare on Elm Street, like one of the things that's really great in that movie is that there's a moment where the protagonist becomes proactive, where she decides that she's going to face this threat and take it on, because she goes through all of the actually reasonable, all of the things that you'd think a smart teenage character should do in her situation, which admittedly is a weird one. You can give her parents some credit for not jumping to the obvious conclusion that there's actually a nightmare ghost. Um, Anyway, you know what? It's been more than 5 minutes. I'm going to leave it there. But I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.